Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our weekly webinar about all things HR. I'm Bron Pearson from Pinnacle People Solutions, and for those who are joining us for the first time and for those who are regulars and have become regulars across this year at our Wednesday webinars, welcome. It is absolutely delightful to be here and to have you with us this evening. So our company, Pinnacle People Solutions, provides human resource services, advice, support, solutions, you name it, strategies to regionally based small to medium-sized enterprises and not-for-profit organisations. And we are here to help you and your business to adapt and to thrive. You can contact either myself or my fantastic team anytime via Facebook, email, telephone, or visit our website. The details are coming in the comments. Our lovely team will no doubt be putting that up for you in just a moment, so you can get that information. So as a continuation of our COVID-19 employer advisories, which of course we started back in March when this wonderful 2020 roller coaster well and truly sped up on the back of drought and bushfires for rural and regional Australia. So we obviously way back then started our COVID employer advisories, and they were of course daily for many weeks to start with as the landscape was changing so regularly. Since that time, we have pared it back to twice a week and now once a week. And every Wednesday evening at 5:30, we've been doing a deep dive into a particular HR topic to make sure to provide you, the small business owner, manager and staff member, with information and insights on topics of interest to regional business. So if you have anything that you'd particularly like to hear about, as we've said before, please don't hesitate to get in touch. We are putting together our topic schedule for February and beyond in 2021. So we would love to hear from you with any HR topics that you are keen to hear specific things about and for us to unpack. Okay, so today's topic. Today we'll actually be finishing off our Back to the Workplace series. We'll be looking in detail at a topic that is only continuing to grow in the minds of business owners, managers and their staff. How do we get back to the workplace after the pandemic, or indeed we're still in the middle of it, but through to this point in time, what does that look like, getting back to the workplace, and how can the situation be managed to ensure maximum benefits for everybody involved? As well, of course, to make sure that as business owners and managers, you're dealing with the situations lawfully and compassionately, which of course are incredibly important. What we now know is that from next Monday, the 14th of December, the New South Wales government, for those businesses tuning into us in New South Wales, no longer require employers to enable employees to work from home. So we do anticipate an acceleration in employees returning to their normal workplace, and indeed small to medium and not-for-profit business owners in rural and regional New South Wales and beyond, making some changes based on that information. So in part one of our three-part series, we talked about what is happening and what is next. What has changed over the last 9 months since our worlds got tipped upside down in March? How are your staff, your managers, relevant governments, and all other stakeholders relating to your business feeling about getting back into the workplace? What does that actually look like? What are the consequences of the various options, both for individual businesses and for the economy and society at large? So that was our part one. We took a lovely deep dive into that. And of course, you can find that presentation and the associated fact sheet up on our website and in Facebook and on LinkedIn and a range of other locations where, of course, Pinnacle People Solutions has a presence. In part two of our three-part series, we went through what options are available to you for your business to evolve, and we unpacked that further. Today, we're actually going to be looking at the actual steps involved in getting back to the workplace, both by employers and employees. We're also going to be looking at what essential legal and practical considerations need to be taken into account. by businesses and their staff. It's mostly going to be a lot of questions that you will want to be asking yourself, whether you're a business owner, a business manager, or a staff member of a regionally based small to medium business or a not-for-profit organisation. And the reason that we've posited all of this as questions to ask yourself is so to give you a good framework to make then good decisions. And of course, tonight's presentation is going to be backed up by a fact sheet that you will be able to access on our website shortly after the presentation. So let's get stuck in. So what do we know now, or what do we do now? First and foremost, step one is to review. It's really important to take the time to review your business strategy, to review your staffing, and to review your workplace, both from a physical and a cultural perspective. How is your business going now? What do the financials look like? What are your goals, and how are you measuring those to see how you're meeting them? We know that if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. So it's really important to not only have documented what your goals are, but how are you tracking? And of course, we've had to change direction on those numerous times this year in response to how the pandemic has shaped and shifted our economies, our industries, our sectors, how we work, the ways we work. So it's incredibly important to have a really good visibility via review on how your business is going now. One of the other questions to ask yourself in the context of this first step of review is, do you have a business plan? Is it still current? And what are the next 6 months, 12 months, 5 years, 10 years actually look like, do you think? While it may not be possible to necessarily predict out to 6 months, 12 months, 5 years and 10 years, certainly on the basis of our experience this year, it's really important nonetheless for us to have some good vision on what those things look like so that we can pivot. It's going to be much easier if you've got a plan to shift it than it is to have not had a plan in the beginning and not quite know where you're at. Do you have the staff that you need to support that business plan? And are they doing the right jobs? If not, how are you going to deal with that? That's a really important question to ask. We've used the analogy before that it's one thing for a business to decide that it, for example, wants to circumnavigate the globe. It's a whole other thing if the capacity to do that is an outboard, a tinny with a 2-stroke outboard motor. It's not really going to get you very far. So the question is, do you have an engine room of people with the right skills in the right jobs at the right time for you to take your business in the direction that you're planning? So you need to ask those questions about, do you have the staff that you need with the right skills and attributes to support your business plan? Do you have, importantly, of course, at this point in time, the physical space to support that business plan? Do you have the right number of desks, meeting rooms, client-facing areas, particularly given the COVID restrictions, social distancing, cleaning and hygiene requirements? That has thrown current physical spaces of businesses into all sorts of interesting review and options this year. So it is important to consider, do you have the physical space to support your business plan, and also to make sure that you're complying with lawful requirements. All of these things mean talking with your staff about what their needs and their wants are and how they see the business growing and changing. It's great to get those different opinions, and a lot of businesses have done that a lot more effectively and a lot more during the period of COVID. And they're great habits to have gotten yourself into over this period of time and to continue if you've already had them in place. If not, never too late to start. Your staff are an infinite resource of support and ideas and different takes, and see the business from a different perspective to where you do. So ask them what they think. You might be really surprised. Okay, the second step beyond reviewing your business is to check your obligations. This is an incredibly important component in what we're talking about this evening. It is incredibly important to ensure that you check your obligations under relevant modern awards or any enterprise agreement that might cover your business, about making changes to your workplace in general, whether that's to individual hours, days, locations of work, rosters, ways of working, locations of working, any of those things that are covered under modern award requirements for consultation. It's incredibly important that you speak to your staff and consult. Every modern award has a consultation clause that sets out how you need to consult with your employees about major workplace change and what constitutes major workplace change. If you're not sure what award covers your staff, now is a really excellent time to figure this one out, as well as to make sure that you start paying your staff correctly and have robust employment contracts and position descriptions in place. We've heard again this week of yet another organisation that's gone to the wall, not its financial future, but has been found to have underpaid staff by $80 million. This is just this week. A very large childcare provider across the nation has done an audit and found that it has underpaid its staff over a significant period of time, equating to about 80 million, which is just extraordinary. So if you think that large employers can get it so horribly wrong, trust me, it can happen to anybody. So really important time to make sure you know what awards cover your staff, to ensure first and foremost that you're paying your staff correctly, and also that you've got robust employment contracts and position descriptions in place. Our Small Business Month webinars, which were held in October, of course, covered your obligations with regards to these essential workplace documents, and I'd really encourage you to review these on our website. And we'll put the links up in the comments and in the fact sheet for you to make it easy as possible for you to head back there and check off those boxes and make sure that you're doing what you need to. There's a very interesting case that has been profiled in the last 24 hours that deals with the question of working from home rights. And this is a particularly interesting case that is the Australian Tax Office, so the ATO's top executives are being sued in the federal court currently. They are accused of abusing their public servants' rights, working from home rights during the height of the current coronavirus pandemic. It's the Australian Services Union that has taken the ATO top executives to the federal court, accusing them of making up a new category of remote working, otherwise called working from home, so they could bypass pre-existing rules for staff who were working at home. In the case that's been lodged, the union have accused those tax office executives of misleading their workforce over their remote working rights and of adverse action in rushing public services staff back to their offices. Now, if they're successful, the ASU in this case, there will be civil fines that would be worth tens of thousands of dollars that could be applied if the court upholds the union's claims. It's the union's argument that as a result of the ATO's executives' actions, that workers were ordered back to their desks with little notice, throwing childcare and other family arrangements into chaos. And consequently, the ASU is seeking fines and other penalties for what it alleges were breaches of workplace laws by senior bureaucrats. The union is arguing that public servant workers for the ATO went above and beyond their normal duties in working to support fellow citizens during the pandemic, only to be let down. The tax office's argument is that they're relying on that they were entitled in an emergency situation to develop a new, more flexible approach to working from home without being burdened by the formal work at home rules, which they've got in place. And they're arguing that they acted in accordance with their enterprise agreement. That, of course, is in dispute. What happened was by early April, you had 11,000 of the ATO staff were working remotely, but the dispute that's currently before the federal court erupted after the federal government announced JobKeeper and other emergency stimulus messages and asked the ATO to get the schemes up and running quickly. What happened was the ATO rushed public servants back to their desks to train in the administration of the stimulus without the notice periods to which they were entitled. So watch this space. This is going to be really interesting. The tax office put in place emergency work from home arrangements and then pulled them back. So it's going to be a very interesting one to watch. Certainly as any businesses are starting to return staff to work environments that are not remote any longer, you have to be incredibly careful about how you do that, and the consultation, as I mentioned before, that you have to have in place before you take those particular actions. So if in doubt, give us a call. It's also really important to remember that your work health and safety obligations come into play here as well. It's very important to be asking yourself the question, are you meeting your lawful obligations? Are you providing a safe and healthy place of work for your staff, wherever that place of work happens to be? And do you have the records to back it up? We've also are going to put up a link to an ABC article with some international research that's recently been released showing how for workers returning to an office space, how very different layout awaits them in terms of a COVID-19 world. Obviously, social distancing rules have meant that most offices have desks now spread much further apart than they would normally do, with guidelines recommending people are seated at least 1.5 meters apart. But if you happen to be reading that article or watching me at the moment at your desk, you can still see the eyes of the people sitting across from you. Scientists are suggesting that you need to be aware. They've used the world's most powerful computer to produce animations that reveal how COVID-19 can spread, and it shows we could be more exposed than we realise, even with those social distancing requirements. So the question about that is, how do you protect yourself? Well, as business owners, and the research that's been done on how droplets can spread and infect other people, you might look at raising the petitions to a safe level in your office. This is the desk petitions. And it's been, the optimal level has been called the Goldilocks level, which is not too high because that can actually stifle the flow of fresh air, but high enough to prevent droplets from spreading. So there's also a recommendation around wearing a mask in the office. None of these things are mandated at this particular point in time, but really interesting article for any of you business owners, managers or staff out there who are working in office environments to go and have a look at. So we will make sure to put that up for you. Step 4 to do today in our series is make a plan. So the next step is to put all of this information together and make a plan that includes any and all changes you want to make to your business strategy, to your staffing, to your workplace, etc., as well as a plan to communicate that clearly to all of your stakeholders. Now, your stakeholders, of course, are not only your staff, very importantly, but not only your staff, also your clients, your suppliers, your landlords, and so on. Obviously, the things which are relevant to them in that communications plan. You need to think broadly about who and what you want to communicate. Any communication plan that you put in place should also include how you're going to measure outcomes of success and how you'll be reviewing the plan moving forward. So incredibly important to be looking at making a plan on the back end, of course, of checking your obligations and undertaking, as we mentioned, a review. And finally, your next step, of course, not finally, but your next step in the process is to consult. We've been pushing this all the way through COVID. It's absolutely essential that if you're going to or thinking of changing anything major to do with staffing, such as people's place of work, their times of work, expectations in terms of their particular roles, business direction for your company, etc., that you consult appropriately and adequately with staff to meet your lawful obligations. And also to encourage, of course, a workplace culture of openness and communication. Take your staff on the journey with you. So many businesses have done that incredibly successfully during the COVID crisis. Don't stop now, continue to do it. It's really valuable for your business moving forward. We've obviously talked to you about this in a previous webinar and fact sheet, and we'll put the link to that in the comments for you to have a look at, and that's our advisory on getting business reorganisation right to set your business up for success. Our next step, of course, is to implement, make those changes. Once you know what you're doing, you've done your review, you've done your planning, you've consulted with your team, get ahead and make those changes. Ensure you document everything as you go through in order to meet your lawful obligations, as well as to make life easy for yourself in the future. This includes any work health and safety paperwork, any records of staff consultation, letters notifying suppliers or customers of changes, new employment contracts, etc. Documents exist to protect you and your business, so please put those in place and make sure you take advantage of that protection for your business. We can, of course, help you with any and all of this if it all sounds like too much for you to handle at this point in time yourself. And finally, review. Remember that to review the plan that you put in place as part of step 4, follow through on it. A business plan and a strategy, along with everything else in your business, needs to be agile and responsive to changing circumstances. We know 2020 has been a quite demonstrative example of this. No one can predict the future perfectly. Some of us couldn't predict from literally one day to the next, let alone 1 week to the next. Check in with your measures of success and regularly look back to make sure that your business is still on the right road, heading in the right direction, and that the road hasn't shifted away from underneath you. Incredibly important for you to be doing that regularly. By following these steps and asking yourself the questions both in this webinar and the previous 2 in this series, you can be sure that you're putting your business in the best possible position to address the future. It's up to you. And if you need help with any of it, remember, we have got your back. You can call us, have an obligation-free conversation with us about where you're at and where you want to be and how to get between one and the next. We can absolutely help you with that, so don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. It has, as always, and throughout this turbulent year, been an absolute pleasure to partner with you along this 2020 wild ride that it's been. I don't even know that journey is the appropriate description for it. This video for tonight's part 3 in our 3-part series on Back to the Workplace will remain online on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and our website at www.pinnaclepeoplesolutions.com.au. If you'd like to catch up or watch it again later, or you'd like to refer it to your colleagues, family, friends, etc., staff, managers, we'll also, as I mentioned at the outset, be producing a fact sheet based on the information that we've provided you this evening that you will be able to download from our website shortly. You can also sign up for a weekly digest of our Wednesday webinar, associated fact sheet, and Monday news update to be delivered to your inbox every Tuesday by signing up on our website. As I said, www.pinnaclepeoplesolutions.com.au. So this has been our last webinar for 2020. What a year it's been. Oh my goodness. When COVID first began, we were doing daily Facebook Live updates for 19 weeks. And then we obviously pared things back as things evolved and changed. It's been an absolute pleasure and a privilege to partner with you and your business and your employer. For those who've been checking in with us, who are staff of organisations, all our HR colleagues across organisations across the country, and all those who've just been on this wild and crazy ride with us this year. What a year it's been. It's been an absolute privilege to partner with you across this time. We will be back. We will be back on the 3rd of February 2021, Wednesday the 3rd of February 2021, for our first webinar for 2021. In the meantime, we wish every one of you a safe and happy holiday season. We wish you every opportunity to hug the people that you can, wave cheerily at those that you won't be able to over the festive season. Please stay safe, stay socially distant as required, keep up that fantastic hygiene, and we'll really look forward to seeing you on the 3rd of February 2021 on the other side and the start of a wonderful new year. Thank you so much for joining us again this evening, I should say. We have thoroughly enjoyed it, and we really look forward to seeing you next year. Thank you so much.